Okay, 10, 11.
I'm going to be the awkward one.
10.
The awkward
Anything
person.
else? 10, 11.
10, 11.
You know what you're supposed to say when you're in that position.
What's that?
I suppose
10,
you're all
11,
wrong.
that's
You're here to know.
What are you doing?
No.
I'm making you all wait.
What are we? Thank you, Brian. Appreciate that.
I just pushed all
You're
the buttons up
fantastic.
before 11.
Brian.
Because I'm so I'll be so lonely after.
David Anderson's
I
coming
want
to
to
San
spend
Francisco.
as much time as possible.
This is boring.
Trust it, it'll feel a lot longer. The ride will feel a lot
You
longer.
may press. You may press.
Who else?
Please.
Does have everyone's buttons been
16,
pushed?
20. Press them.
What's your floor?
13.
10.
By the way, is the floor number 13?
There.
Just push him. Who did this? Who did this? Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
That's my room key right between
Oh,
your
10, guys, 10.
10.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Good night. Good night.
Good night, thank you, Tom. Good night, bye-bye.
So it was true that you don't have floor number 13, yeah?
Some places still don't, and this one doesn't.
This one doesn't. No, floor 12, 14.
Yeah, it goes straight 13. That was 11, yeah? Yep.
This is 11.
Thank you, Sabina.
Good night, all.
Good night, everybody. Good night. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Brian.
Good night. We'll see you in the morning.
Unfortunately, we played it so much it's a little hard to appreciate it before. But technically, it's a piece of design.
Walking on.
In the farm fields, Cesar Chavez. This school has a program for hard of hearing children, people who have hearing problems. So the whole alphabet is spelled out in sign language in these panels along the wall here. And these children are saying welcome to Cesar Chavez School in sign language.
Oh, interesting.
Each letter is illustrated by something that rhymes with that letter.
In English, yes.
B, L for lion.
Yeah, and then a chili pepper for CH, although cherry is CH. Diamond for D there. Berry for B. Yeah.
Baby.
B for baby.
That should be a picture of me up there for B.
It probably is.
What?
Yeah, that probably is, Brian. That's all right.
So it's recording right now. Yeah.
Okay, and what about Julia? Okay.
8 o'clock in the front.
Sorry?
8 o'clock near the front.
Quayside, the bayside, the point where the ships have traditionally disembarked. She drove more or less automatically until a swift boy in a
Sometimes I try to rack my brain trying to figure out who it is.
Tindu.
If you can think of a way to reroute,
of the Central California. So the grapevines are worked in as part of the decoration.
Everything you want.
Cold spectacle, having thought such traffic only possible in Los Angeles, places like that. Looking down at San Francisco from the elevation of the Bay Bridge. Looking down at San Francisco a few minutes later from the high point of the bridge's arc, she saw smog. Haze, she corrected herself, is what it is.
You need it.
Good morning. I think I need this sign.
Good morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
And we need the first 4 seats. Can you?
This one.
Wait. Well, actually, I think they want. Jennifer said I think she wants the first 4 seats.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
No, actually,
Okay.
the whole row.
Can I?
First 1 more back. I think she wants to save these 4. I think. Did you mean the first 4 actual seats or the first 4 spaces?
The first 4 on either actual like the section.
Okay, all right.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. Larry, nice to meet you, Larry. Thank you so much.
I'm going to be tormenting these people with a tour, which you're going to be.
I mean, you could have shared a seat. I'm sorry, I just have so much to jump.
Where are you going? Just let me give you. It's a very circuitous route, so it's going to be a thing or two between here and there.
Oh, by the way, all those people who owe me $6.
You are the only person who... Can you remember in Russian, murals and muralist?
Pardon?
It's a kind of
Translate me into Russian. Remind me the word.
Which one?
All these murals on the walls. How do we call them in
The
Russian?
subject here, I think, is the destruction of
Сцена
small-scale
картинки.
neighborhoods and the
Да, то, что на
building
стены.
of
На стенах пишут. Как
skyscrapers
они? Ну, по мокрой
generally
штукатурке. Как?
Я не знаю.
Как это ты не знаешь?
materialization
Почему я должен знать?
of traditional neighborhoods. And it's fun.
Very interesting Hispanic community.
This one is based on the illustrations of Maurice Sendak, yeah.
Don't waste the water. Keep it clean because across the water is where you find
The Wild Things. He wrote a book called Where the Wild Things Are. These are, I think, heroes of Mexican cinema. Maybe I'm mistaken. These are Mexican figures in any case.
Yeah, the cinema one is on that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's 3 of them.
Time as we walk in what's called the Mission District, is a kind of a banana belt, as we're fond of saying around here. That is to say, an area where a certain level of reliable warmth is typical, even in the foggiest conditions, where parts of the city are very chilly. Amid the exhaust, sweat, glare, and ill humor of a summer evening on an American freeway, Oedipa Mas pondered her Tristero problem. All the silence of San Narciso, the calm surface of the hotel pool, the contemplative contours of residential streets like rakings in the sand of a Japanese garden had not allowed her to think as leisurely as this freeway madness. Okay. Oh, well, there's a view of the ferry building's tower off to the right. And very shortly we will hit the Embarcadero, the waterfront street that she drives along as she heads into the city. It's a little like juggling several balls to be connecting a tour and reading a book at the same time. So forgive me if it seems schizophrenic.
You're okay, everyone. You're okay. Can we have a little more volume?
How's that? Any better?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Either Tristram did exist in its own right, or it was being presumed, perhaps fantasied by Oedipus. So hung up on and interpenetrated with the dead man's estate. She's there, as you recall, in the wake of the death of Invariati, and she's the executrix of his estate. And so that's what's driving here. Let's see. Back to the pension. Here in San Francisco, away from all tangible assets of that estate, there might still be a chance of getting the whole thing to go away, to disintegrate quietly. She had only to drift tonight at random.
Is that you're really going to like it.
Hello? Hello. Hi. Welcome to San Francisco. I'm going to take us on a tour loosely based on Thomas Pynchon's The Crying of Lot 49, and in the process we'll see a number of sites around the city, and I'll try to fit those in as informatively as I can. I have done this before, but our driver has not, so we're going to be kind of inventing the route in some parts as we travel. I'm still catching my breath here, so hang on just a second.
Anyway, this is an experience, an encounter that she had with somebody. So part of that is echo of that interaction. But I think it's a celebration, but it also raises questions around immigration.
Is this the Chinese dragon taking over, or is this a Mayan sculpture?
This is a tribute to the women muralists and future generations. Oh, or and.
Well, it does say and, yeah.
Yeah.
Future generations.
Yeah.
And here is the version of Guadalupe again, turned into a somewhat skeletal figure.
Interesting sort of gargoyle down here with a machine gun.
And in her day, this was a rather tawdry part of the city with a lot of kind of sex clubs and strip joints, and it's still got a certain odor of that about it, but it's a lot more dressed up than it was when the time that Pynchon is describing it. The club where she meets the tourists with the lapel pins with the post horn would have been right up ahead of us in the next block here. I'll try to get in a little bit. Somebody blew on an athletic whistle, and Oedipa found herself being herded along with other badged citizens toward a bar called the Greek Way. Oh no, Oedipa thought, not a fag joint, no. And for a minute tried to fight out the human surge before recalling how she had decided to drift tonight. Now in here, their guide, sweating dark tentacles into his tab collar briefly, you were going to see the members of the third sex, the lavender crowd. The lavender crowd this city by the bay is so justly famous for. To some of you, the experience may seem a little queer, but remember, try not to act like a bunch of tourists. Okay, that would have been probably along in this block here. There was a famous transvestite club called Finocchio. Try not to act like a bunch of tourists, says the tour guide. If you get propositions, it'll all be in fun. Just part of the gay nightlife to be found here in famous North Beach. 2 drinks, and when you hear the whistle, it means out, on the double. Regroup, right here.
One of the things that you'll find in American literature and rhetoric is a notion that we are an exceptional country in our dedication to democracy and justice, but that we fail our ideals in these areas. You'll find it in Walt Whitman, you'll find it in Martin Luther King, find it in many, in various forms in many writers. Is that?
I think it's worth noting, though, that those ideals remain vigorous as ideals. I mean, it's pretty remarkable after more than 200 years to have sustained a system of expectation, of hope, even if it falls short of being fully realized. We're a nation of immigrants, you know.
What's the information about the location of the place? Oh, yeah. Good. Yeah.
Unidentifiable drink in her fist, jammed against somebody tall in a suede sport coat, in the lapel of which she spied, wrought exquisitely in some pale, glimmering alloy, not another Series badge, but a pin in the shape of the Tristero post horn, mute and everything. This broad street we're going down is Van Ness, an unusually broad street for San Francisco. Most of whose streets are rather narrow. This was where they managed, by cutting through, destroying a number of the buildings in 1906, they managed to stop the fire from spreading further west. So a lot of the buildings to your right are preserved, not these right here, but many of the smaller scale buildings are preserved from the pre-1906 period. Back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, this street became developed as the automobile center for the city. So there are a lot of old automobile showrooms along here. Degree, a country that was based in its earliest moments on immigrants who were here for religious purposes. And that has continued to be a very potent component of American life, but is perhaps less so all the time. And again, there's great tension there that has tremendous interest and meaning for us as a culture attempting to deal with diversity.
I would say,
and sexuality, sexual orientation. I mean, in San Francisco, you know, of all places, what a powerful theme that represents. And we're making our peace with these things, but it's not easy. It's never simple.
I should also mention that of the countries in the developed world, the U.S. is probably the most religious.
Look at him, he's crawling.
You know what?
It's called flap
over the I think the battery's dead.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Oh, it's alright.
What you say, Mom?
The battery's dead on the camera.
What battery?
On that one.
Yeah. This got like a bat.
Hey, and look at.
Cool.
Yeah, quite cool.
Hey man, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. And
How
you?
did you find San Francisco?
Oh, that's fabulous.
Oh, very beautiful city.
Take a picture from
Sabor!
And some formal gardens around it. There's on our left here a fern tree forest. These trees that look like small stubby palms are native to New Zealand and Australia. There's a whole grove of them over here. Whenever I run this tour, I think, my God, some of you people must know infinitely more about these things than I could possibly know. These things must be very familiar to you. To me, they continue to seem somewhat exotic, things like that. The great art museum, traditional art museum of San Francisco, the De Young Museum, is over here in on our left, it's new building, just a few years old, replaced the more traditional building that had stood there. Here's a statue of the Scottish poet Robert Burns.
I believe that De Young right now has a big show of Picasso paintings from the Picasso Museum in Paris. Anyone who's a Picasso lover could consider doing that on free time Saturday.
The museum you see across the way is the Science Museum over there with a natural roof, a roof planted with greenery. And we're seeing the back side of the De Young, the art museum here. It's a copper cladding. That metal is a kind of a copper screen, which over time will change color. It'll turn a sort of greenish tone. On weekends, the road we're driving on is closed off to motorized vehicles and is open to cyclists and skaters, and people on foot. It's a big party scene here.
That's orangutan. He's huge. I don't see him.
You don't see him?
No.
He's right there. You see him on the wall?
Oh, there he is. He moved his head. Look at that nasty thing. It's orangutan. That's orangutan. It's nasty. It looks ugly. Orangutan.
It's like he doesn't have like the pelvis, right? Yeah, attached.
Everyone smiled like, I don't know where
Okay. Trust me, you guys, the pictures are going to be really good where they're going.
Area that we'll go to on Friday, Chinatown, is exceptionally dense. The number of people per square inch there is really unusually compact for an American city. American cities tend to sprawl, but because San Francisco's on a peninsula, it has had to tighten its belt and go up rather than out. We're shortly going to, well, here's one of those automobile showrooms, the one on the left there, and another on the right here, built probably in the 20s with these sort of classical columns and complex architectural detailing. We're going to pass the Civic Center, the domed building, which you will shortly see on your left, is the San Francisco City Hall with its great gilded dome, taller than the dome of the National.
Yeah, if you're going to go down to the surf, you need to be moving because we do not have long.
That's cool.
Hey,
Pacific. I'm coming.
Aren't you cold?
They are breathing. You can make out. Now how many?
Swam down in
The Wells High School, you know?
Okay.
Singer.
And just beyond it is the Opera House, which still houses the opera. And beyond that is the Symphony Hall, a building dating from the early 70s. So this is a cluster of significant civic buildings right along here. Opera House here on your right.
Yeah, it likes cooler temperature.
Oh, what's this?
Is it a kind of pig or what?
Singer, I'll take a picture here. This animal, very special. There is one here.
There's one there. And Donald is there. Wherever Donald is, there is one.
Wild pig.
We will go up, okay. I want to see the tiger.
Tiger.
What is it?
The tiger burning bright. There it is. What?
Okay, that's the tiger.
Oh, thank you very much.
When do you want? Where do you want it? You want
whatever you
something?
want. Just
No, but I'm sure you want to be in some.
yeah.
That's what you want.
What is it? In there.
Oh, tiger. Oh, yeah.
A what?
Tiger, you see? Tiger over there, on top.
But it's too difficult to see from here.
You look from here. You can see it from here. What's this?
Tiger.
Oh, really?
You cannot see that well from here.
In China, tiger is the king of all the animals.
Yeah. It's the wildest of all the creatures there are now. The most powerful.
In Western countries, they regard a lion as the king. But in China, lion king, lion.
You can see the cat's face.
Danger. Danger. What do you see, guys?
Show us.
The tiger over there.
Tiger? Whoa. Where?
Why is he so far?
I don't know. Maybe
I want him
because
to get closer to us.
call him up. Call him.
I love
Tony,
tiger.
Tony, tiger.
And where is the... sheep.
Want to kiss
Can we call him like? Can we call him like that?
No.
Take it on.
Traditionally, in my village, it is our tradition to control tigers. Tigers, panthers, and
Lions.
Lions.
Do you have tigers over there too? But not natural.
Not many tigers.
Not many tigers because they're not. I mean, original from there.
No.
Tigers are Asian animals.
There are two tigers which are in Siberia, yes, and
The Siberian tiger is the biggest animal. I mean, the biggest cat there is the Siberian tiger.
It's not a small one.
Back and see over there on the rock. Stand on top of it. Where the fire?
Okay, we should begin to think about returning to the bus.
I don't see his legs there.
Okay. And you want to walk with that?
the side of the building is also quite magnificent. So.
These figures up here represent African American woman on the left and indigenous American woman on the right.
Be careful, don't break him. Those are beautiful. Last time we came, one had their wings out.
Have a chance to go hiking up in these. I think it is natural hot springs, yeah. Those are very characteristic coastal trees shaped by the wind. Those are the cypress trees there. Abandoned pension, I'm afraid. You do remember that Ediba makes it out to the beach and finds some kids playing there, and also there's an amusement park on the beach which no longer exists, but when Pynchon writes about it, right across the road from where we just were was an amusement park.
To lunch, by the way.
Who cares?
Everybody who got in the water gets lunch. 3.
Everybody who didn't get in the water gets lunch.
Yeah.